Welcome to Tuesday Talks. I'm Darlene, and my special guest is Rebecca. I'm really excited. And Rebecca has, after learning about zero waste and positive thinking, Rebecca decided to quit her job as a designer and started her business as a personal organizer. Now, today, Rebecca helps people declutter, curate their best collection of objects, manage their time better, and live their best lives. She's also the author of Organized Jewish Life, the host of her own podcast and decluttering membership, Journey to Organization, and a wife and mother of three. Wow. And originally from the US and now lives in Israel. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming online and having a
Thanks
chat.
for having me. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And so I'd love to, let's have a little chat about how you actually, you did start because you said you quit as a designer. Let's talk about that and just go from there.
So the fields really overlap.
Mm,
I mean, the truth is that a lot of what I do is still design.
mm,
So I just quit my official job and started my own business, but I was feeling very unsatisfied with what I was making in the design world, and I felt like it's not good for the environment. Nobody really uses it in the long term. It ends up in the landfill.
mhm,
Like so many people have to like suffer to make these things, and so many
mm,
resources come into it, and like it just ends up in the garbage. So like what
mm,
am I doing this for? And I didn't feel like I was leaving the world a better place at
mm,
all. So I quit.
mm.
But not before I had another job.
Good idea.
I had taken a part-time job helping older couple downsize, and I was like, this is awesome, and I really love it. But really, I think what the impetus was like I couldn't sustain both. Like they needed me at certain times, but my regular job needed me at certain times, and like
Mm,
I had to make a choice, and I chose a job where I could really, really help people and make a difference in people's lives. And
mm,
what I found was that not only could I make a difference in people's lives by helping them have less,
mm,
but I could also do it in a way that felt like comfortable and ethical to me.
mm,
So I make sure that when I declutter with families or individuals, that we try to dispose of everything in the most ethical way.
mm,
So recycling whenever we can,
mm,
donation whenever possible, sales if that's, an avenue we could take. Like we try to avoid letting the stuff end up in the landfill, which is huge.
mm. Yeah, it is, isn't it? And that's the thing, like, so much does go into landfill. And for me, because I told you before we started that I'm actually moving. And so I did start doing some decluttering. And that's something that I was aware of as well is, what am I going to do with the stuff that I'm actually getting rid of? How am I going to do that? And it's such a lovely way. I love how you actually make sure that things are done ethically.
Yeah, I mean, listen, sometimes there's no choice. Sometimes
Mm,
something is just
yeah.
trash,
Yeah.
like and sometimes the opposite happens where people get really precious about it, and they're like, "Oh, I paid so much money," or, "Oh, but it's still good. I just
Mm.
don't need it anymore," right? So it's like there's a lot of guilt or worry about what the next stage of life is for these things, and I feel
Mm.
like once you pass it on, it's not your problem anymore, and you could just let it go.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to worry about it. My feeling is this.
Mm,
If you have received it, it's a blessing. If you
mm.
no longer need it anymore, you are able to pass your blessing on to somebody
Mm.
else.
That's
And,
I love
you know,
that. It's a beautiful way of thinking about it.
and it doesn't matter. Like just trust in the process that it
Mm,
will get to whoever it needs to get to, however it
mm,
needs to get there, and it's not going to be your problem.
mm. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is a really beautiful way to think about it. And
Thanks.
and actually talking about that, that leads me into sort of the mental health area because I know that for me, I needed support. I actually needed people to come and help me pack because I couldn't do it. Because those that follow me know that I actually have depression and that. How do you help your clients with, actually being able to declutter and let go of stuff?
So I never tell people you have to get rid of that. um, My
Might
feeling
be
is this.
easier.
It took you time to get this way. It's
Mm,
going to take you time to undo it. And you
mm,
want it to be in a way that is healthy and
mm.
sustainable. So, for example, you wouldn't, if you were a weight loss coach, you wouldn't tell somebody like, yeah, it's okay to lose 10 pounds every day. It's not. It's not good for your body. It's not healthy. It's not sustainable. If you're
Mm,
losing 10 pounds a day, that's like you are sick.
yes.
You
Yeah.
know, like this is not a good thing.
Mm,
So the same is true with decluttering. If you are struggling with letting go of things, it's not going to help you to go ahead and just let go of everything right
mm,
away. It needs to be stages in moderation, slowly over time. A lot of times people need a little extra time to think about
mm,
things. And my feeling is that we can always pick it up on the second pass once you know what you have.
mm,
Because the biggest thing is most people just have so much stuff, they don't know what they have.
mhm.
And because of that, they need a minute to like assess, am I really going to use this? I didn't even know I
Mm,
had it. I mean, listen, if you've lived all this time without it, you can
yeah.
probably let it go. But like now that you know you have it, I want to give you a little bit of time
Mm,
to move forward with it. So for example, I have a client, actually she's Australian and based in New York,
mm,
and she is having trouble letting go of some of the clothes. So what we
mm,
did was, because she's like, I'm not sure if I'm going to need it. And
mhm,
especially now when we're coming out of like Corona lockdowns and a
mm,
lot of the stuff didn't get used,
yes.
you're like, well, I don't know if I need it anymore because,
Mm,
I didn't really use it. And, the conventional wisdom is if you haven't used it in 6 months or a year, let it go.
mhm.
Right.
Yep.
But when nobody's used anything and all they've been
Mm,
living in is
yes.
their leggings and their one sweatshirt, like,
Yep.
how do you gauge?
Mm,
Right. So I said to her, excuse me. I said, turn all the hangers like
mm,
backwards and let's see what you use. Anything that's around by the 1st of February, you can keep. And anything that's not around by the 1st of February, bye. See you later. Like
mm,
it means you're not using it. It means you
mhm,
don't need it. And I think that most of us live in a time where if we mistakenly get rid of something, we can get it again,
mm,
either through divine providence, like
yeah.
it'll just come back to us,
Mhm,
or we'll be able to, or divine providence will give us enough money that we
mm,
can go out and buy it again, right?
mhm.
Even if it's
Yep.
secondhand or if it's new,
Mhm,
it doesn't matter. So the aspect that I like to focus on is even if you let this go, you will still have enough. And if you do need it again, you'll get it again.
mm,
It won't be an issue. And most of what people deal with when they're decluttering is the worry. I might need it again. It might come in handy. Or again, also the guilt. But like
mm,
this circumvents that. So basically, by taking a little bit of extra time and doing it in 2 stages, I find that it makes it easier for people to cope when situations like anxiety, OCD, depression come into the picture, because it's
mm,
like you don't have to make the decision right this minute. Now we took an inventory, we know what we have, we'll see what you use. We'll
mm,
revisit in a couple of weeks, like let's see. And I think that what that does is it soothes people to a state where they can, really understand what they need and what they're using
mm.
better.
Yeah.
My feel In general, I find that people just have way too much stuff, and that also contributes to mental health issues, like
Mhm,
because more stuff means more responsibility.
mm,
And when you have less stuff, you're less responsible for your stuff. What ends
mm,
up happening is we end up becoming slaves to our things when we have too much stuff, because we're always worried about where it will fit in, how we can get it put away, how it needs to be taken care of. And when you have less, there's just less of that to worry about. And so I find that like people have to realize what the trade-off is.
mm,
And the first step to understanding that is knowing what you have.
mm,
Once you know what you have, you can say like, this is what I really need. This is what I don't need. You can let go of the things you don't need, but you can't, it's hard for most people to make that step
mhm.
if they don't really understand the things that they have.
And that's so true. Like, I mean, obviously you're looking in my window because what you're talking about is exactly what's going on. Because I've had friends come and help me pack because I put out a call and said, I'm not coping, I need, and it's so funny because I went, oh, I forgot about that. And that happened quite a few times. It's like, oh, oh yeah, that's right.
It's worthwhile when you're moving to make a sort of inventory list and then to sort of in a new place understand where those things could go.
Mm,
Because it gives you it allows you to not forget what you have.
mm,
But as you in general, for packing it and unpacking, it's a really, really good time to declutter because you got to make your stuff fit into a new place
mhm.
now. But also, this is the perfect time to start getting your categories in order.
Oh,
So if you weren't already keeping your like items together, now's the time to get them together. So for example, if all of your shirts were not hanging in the closet together, now's the time to make them hang together. If all of your painting supplies are not together, you know, you have some in this room and some in that room, no, now's the time to get them together. If all the kitchen supplies were sort of spread out, like one person posted in my Facebook group this week how she wanted to reorganize her utensils drawer, like cutlery and like gadgets and stuff, and then her pots and pans. And she had so many of the gadgets and utensils like down in the pots and pans. No, can't be that way. It has to be that utensils go here and the pots and pans go here, because when you don't have the like items together, that's when they like shuffle down like a funnel where it like sifts down to the bottom, right? Like we don't want that. We want to be able to see everything that we have. We want it to be clear. We want to know. We want to know that if it's not in this place, then you don't have it.
wow.
Same thing is true like with medications, like even over the counter things. It keeping, let's say, just band-aids, you say plasters, right? Yeah. Just keeping them in one location means that they're not in another location,
Mm,
which means that when you need one, you know that if I don't have them here in this closet, I don't have them, right? And that gives an understanding because it's clear I don't have any band-aids. I don't have any plasters, right? Like I don't have them. I know I need to go to the store and buy more. Because if I had them, they would be here. And what it does is it shifts your level of responsibility. Like, okay, this is something I need to add to my shopping list. I don't need to spend 10 hours pulling
mm,
apart my house looking for them, because this is where they go. If they're not here, they're not here. Right? Like if bathroom items go in the bathroom, you know, clothing items go in the closet. If they're not there, I don't have it.
that's so,
Right? Like
yeah.
it's just an understanding and
Mm,
creating a system for yourself of how things can go together. And I think
mm.
this is what most people are like. I'm always, I mean, I know that this is going to happen, but I'm always
Mm.
surprised when I go to someone's house and I see like all the things are not together. Like last week I did someone's kitchen and all the food was not in the same place.
Oh.
And I'm like, why isn't all the food in the same place? And she's like, I don't know. And like the food and the dishes were mixed together. And I was like, let's make one cabinet for food and one cabinet for dishes. And then what happens is when the kids like dump the container of crackers out, it doesn't get all over the clean dishes, right? Okay, worst case, it gets over some of the food, but that's not a big deal. You don't have to wash the food, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, but she said it's like life changing, even though the
Mm,
glasses are a little bit further away now.
mhm,
It's like the kids know this is where the glasses go.
mm,
And it's easier to give directions to people to clean up
mm,
when it's like, please put the glasses away.
mm,
They're not just shoved into any old closet or cabinet, right? They're in the place where they go. And that's really the key, is getting the like items together and giving everything a real home. And I
mm,
find that for my clients who struggle with mental health issues, that's the key to making things better for them. Understanding what they have, knowing where it goes,
mm,
giving a piece of real estate to everything that they own makes a huge difference for them, because they know what they have, they know what they're responsible for. And knowing there's an old cartoon from the 80s, knowing is half the battle, right? Like it's
Yes.
true. Knowing is half the battle. Like I just
Yep.
dated myself, but I don't know if they had that GI Joe in Australia, but
Yes.
that's the
Yep.
tagline, right?
Yep. I won't tell you how
uh,
I am.
so and I mean, like that's the real thing. Like a lot of my clients suffer from OCD.
Mhm.
Um, and you would think like, oh, well, if they have OCD, like that means they must be organized. But there's like a level of perfectionism that comes with
Mhm.
OCD that most people don't know about.
Mhm.
And what it does is it says it's like an internal conversation you
Mhm.
have with yourself where it's like, I can't do this perfectly, so I'm just not going to do it.
Mhm.
But if they do start to do it, then it does have to be perfect. So they'd rather
Mhm.
just not get involved
Yep.
because they know they can't do it perfectly. But perfect is the enemy of done. We're not looking
Mhm.
to do this perfectly. We're just looking to have less so that we
Mhm.
can live better lives, because less stuff, it means that we have less responsibility to our stuff and we can focus on the things that we love to do. Some days I like look in the evening, I'm like, I say to my husband, I'm like, well, we ran the vacuum and the
Yep.
dishes are clean and the counters are clean and the laundry is folded. Like, what are we gonna do?
That's a
And
nice
I,
thing
and
to
I,
have.
yeah, it's a really nice feeling, and it's nice to be able to feel like we can watch TV without feeling like we should be doing
Mm.
something else.
Mm.
Like that we can sit there and spend time together. It's nice to feel like we can all stop for 30 minutes and have dinner together. I think that's really, I mean, my oldest son doesn't eat with us because he lives in, he goes to a boarding school and he lives in the dormitory. So during the week, he doesn't eat with us, but he does on the weekend, Thursday
Yeah.
night, Friday night, Saturday night. Um, but during the week, my other two kids, we all eat together, and it's
Mm.
like, we're spending those 30 minutes sitting there at the table and no one's feeling guilty about spending
Mm.
those 30 minutes together. Like, and that's a nice feeling.
Yeah, and it's so precious as well because that's how I grew up. Like we had
Yeah.
meals together. That was
Yeah.
part of it. And it's it's a beautiful way to be to spend that time with your family.
Right. Even if we're only having
Mhm.
pasta,
Yeah.
like it doesn't have, we're not having fancy food.
Mm.
Even if we just got pizza takeout,
Mm.
it doesn't matter. Like
Yep.
we're sitting down,
Mhm.
we're having dinner together.
Mm.
And that's the whole point, right?
Mm.
The family, the friends, the doing
Mm.
things together. Like I don't I don't like to be busy. I mean, sometimes I am busy, but I don't like the feeling of being busy.
Mm.
I know for a lot of people they thrive on that, but
Yep.
I think that's like covering something else up.
Mhm.
I like the slower pace. I like being able to not have to worry about,
Mm.
is my house clean? Is my house always I just want to say this. My house isn't always tidy,
Mm.
okay? But the thing is compared to most people, it is because I have so much less stuff. So
Mm.
it might not be tidy to me, but if you came into my house today, you wouldn't think that it was like totally in disarray. Do you
Mm.
know what I mean? Like, and that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. I don't have to be ready to let a magazine photographer in all the time, but it's good. It's good
Mm.
enough. And I'm happy with good enough. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point, is being happy with good enough. That's just such a good point because, and you were talking about OCD. I understand that because my father and my middle sister have OCD, and living with it was interesting, very interesting. And, you could see the perfectionism in them. And then I had to learn to go, okay, I don't need things to be perfect. Even in my business, it doesn't need to be perfect. Done
Right.
is done. Yes, I can
100%.
keep improving because I'll learn things, but just get it done.
So when I was in high school, I was part of a special magnet art program. And I remember this is probably the lesson that I've held with me all of my life. Like I'm grateful to Mr. Barnes for giving me this lesson. Um, you have to know when to walk away from a painting, right?
Mhm.
But this applies to all things in life, right? You have to know when you did enough
Mhm.
and where you'll get to the point where like anything else you do isn't really going to make it any better.
Mhm.
The one more little dot of light, like you have to know when to put the brushes down, right?
Yes.
Like, and for me, that's always been my guiding light. Like, how do you know when enough is enough? And sometimes you might go back to it in a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever, and decide that, you can organize something better or declutter more. And that's okay. But sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to take a break from this for a while, and I can revisit it. And if it's good enough, then it's good enough. And if it's not good enough, then I'll rework it. But it's the ability to take the break and just sort of know that you did the job, and it's okay for now.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yes.
And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to get to that stage, like intellectually.
It does. Yeah.
But it's possible.
Yeah. Yes, I can actually agree with that, because I'm there. And you were talking about being busy before. I had to learn that as well, because I spent 30 years in the healthcare field on the front line. Busy was it was my first, middle, and last name. Like, that's what it was. And I
I
had to
kind of think
learn.
it's a 4-letter word.
Yeah, so do I, actually. And
like,
I've learned how to let go of that, and that's where I've embraced my mental illness, because it's given me so much beautiful stuff. Is I've learned you don't need to be busy. You can still get things done without being busy. It's
yeah.
just
And I think once I shifted from like, well, I'm not busy, I got time, like, but I'll just say this. The thing is I am more careful about how I designate my time, because time is not a renewable resource. We get what we get. We can't negotiate for more. We can't bank it. We can't save it. We can't, adjust it. We can't give it to somebody else. We can't buy more. Like, this is all. So to me, I don't want to spend my time feeling busy. I mean, again, sometimes I am, and sometimes I have to shift my priorities. Like for example, next week I'm traveling. I'm not going to be able to do my normal routine because things are going to be different. Am I going to be busy? Maybe not, but things are just going to be different. And I think it's all the way how you frame it in your mind. Am I busy, or is my time just being utilized in a different way? And I think that that's really, really important when you understand for yourself, like, being busy is not necessarily a marker of productivity. And it's also not a great way to like have to classify yourself. Like, I want to make time for the people who need me. Like, I have a friend who's a single mom, and if she calls me and she says, hey, could you pick up the kids? Like, sometimes I can do it and sometimes I can't. But I like to be able to say, yeah, I'm free. I can do it. I can help you. Like, the people in my life who are important to me deserve to have the time, right? Like, sometimes I have a meeting, or sometimes I have an event, and sometimes I can't shift, and that's okay. But I like to know that I'm there for the people who need me. When my kid calls me and says, I need to come home from school, I want to be able to go and get them. Like, my daughter's homesick today. I can check in on her all the time, right? Like, because I have things to do, but she's my priority, So like, I mean, she doesn't need me to, she's a teenager already. She doesn't need me to be with her every single second, but like, I can check in on her every 2 hours, give her, food, make her something to eat. Like, this is the way I want to have my life. I don't want to be a slave to my things. I don't want to feel like my family is not my priority. I don't want to feel like my friends are not my priority, because I think that if you look at how you spend your time, that shows you what your priorities are.
Yes.
And if you look at your calendar, like, you'll see these are my priorities. And I think if you actually took a good hard look, you'd be shocked. And business is important, and earning a livelihood is important, and my, job is important, and I serve a lot of people, and it's important to me, but it's not the only thing that's important to me.
Yeah.
And it's finding that balance. That's key.
Yeah, that's such an important thing, and that's something that I've really learned over, because I left the healthcare field about 3 years ago now, and so I've really been, I had to learn how to live without adrenaline, which is that was interesting. And
It's
then
hard. I used to be that way too. It's like you don't know what to
yeah,
do.
yeah, exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm always meant to be busy. Aren't I meant to be busy? And I've like you talking about priorities. And, before this call, I was actually overtaking a walk on the beach because that was important for me.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm an Orthodox Jew, and we celebrate Shabbat. So every Friday night at sundown, we shut down for
Mhm,
25 hours till sunset
mhm,
Saturday night. I always
mm,
get the right. Okay, so we have 25 hours where we're not using devices, where we don't cook, where we don't clean, we don't turn on the lights, right?
mm,
So everything has to be done before.
mhm,
And we don't do this so much in the winter, but we live in Haifa, which is a beach city here in Israel. And in the winter it's a little too cold and there are just not enough hours usually. But in the summertime, every Friday afternoon, we go for a walk on the beach at 4 o'clock.
mm,
And you would think that like, oh, well, we would be getting ready to shut down for 25 hours,
mm,
right? We do. In the morning, we get ready. And in the afternoon, my husband and I, we go for a walk on the beach
mm,
because that's our time together, right? Like, this is our priority. He's my priority.
mm,
My relationship with him is my priority. If I don't have a good relationship with him, all the other things that I want to accomplish in life, I mean, maybe I could still accomplish them, but like, it's going to be a lot harder if there's friction between us, right? So, like, both of us are being seen, both of us are our needs are being met, right? Like this is what we're doing together on Friday
mm,
afternoons. This is our date, right?
mm.
With my kids, it's the same thing. The dinner time conversation, they're teenagers, so they don't really want to have that much to do
Yeah.
with me, but like the dinner time conversation for them right now, it's enough. Like,
Mm,
they need us. We're available to them at this
mm,
time. Like, am I available to them all the time? No, I have boundaries
mhm,
and I have limits, and there are times when I'm doing work and there are times when I'm doing family, and that's okay. But they know if it overlaps that that I will hear them,
mm,
and I think that's that's the point. That's why we're
mm,
here. Like we're here to be with other people. We are not island unto ourselves. How
mhm,
we manage our time, how we manage our things
mm,
is really key to good it's key to good mental health, but it's also
mm.
just key to living our best life.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm loving everything you're saying. It's so spot on for me because it's just everything that I really, I believe in all of that, And you've made some really good points about one of them was putting like things together. That was so amazing, just I just had it like a
It's so
like.
obvious, right? Like, but it's so easy to
Mm,
do.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
something you could really go and do right
Mm,
this minute. And
yes.
you don't have to get rid of anything.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and then the other one was about priorities. Like that is just so important. It's something we really, and especially as business women, we really need to understand priorities. You know,
Right.
if it means having a beautiful hour for lunch, then let's have that. Let's do that. Make it a priority. Whatever is right for you is really important. And that is what, really helps our mental health as well.
100%. I
Mm,
mean, definitely I definitely have an issue with anxiety. And for me, it's more about like I see I take things down the road.
mhm,
Like, oh, I envision all the possible
mm,
scenarios and like which way is it going to turn out? And I'm like, what's going to happen,
yep,
right? Okay, so that's how I suffer from
mm,
anxiety. And what's really worked for me, and this works in decluttering and time management just in general.
mhm,
Um, I cede control.
mm,
I'm like, God's going to take care of this.
mhm,
I don't need to worry about how it happens. His plan is so much better than
mm,
how I could ever imagine it would be.
yes.
And I have to say, like, this is very hard for me.
Mm,
This is something that does not come easy to me to
mhm,
be able to cede control in that way.
mm,
But saying that to myself allows me to move on and do something else,
mm,
right? Like, I don't need to worry about how this is going to work out. I did my part and it's going to work out.
mm,
However it works out, there's nothing I can do,
mm,
Right. And it goes back to that whole let's step away from the painting sort of
Mhm.
situation. I've done what I can do.
Mhm.
At this point, it's not in my hands anymore. I'll just let it work out. And I think that that's where when we don't adopt that attitude, that's when we become busy
Yes.
because we think that there's always more that we can do.
Mhm.
Is that true? Yes, there's always more that we can do. Do we have to do it?
Mhm.
No. And that's like, and it's hard. It's hard for
Mhm.
someone who has anxiety to be like, let me just do a little bit more.
Mhm.
To not say, let me just do a little bit more, but sometimes we just have to walk away.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's something that I've been struggling with, the last few weeks because of having to find a place. I do have anxiety, and my psychologist the other month said, "Do you catastrophize things?" I went, "No, that wouldn't be me. I wouldn't do something like that."
Right. So it's like you went and you looked, right? And you put all of your effort into doing that. And you put in like 3 applications, let's say. Okay, so now you have to wait. There isn't anything else you can do.
Mhm.
So sometimes the patience is the key, right? Or
Mm.
always patience is
Mm.
key. But it's being able to say like there isn't anything else I can do. So I'm going to focus like inside myself, see where my priorities are. Can I journal? Can I go for a walk?
Mm.
Can I make myself a nice dinner? Can I go out with a friend? Like
Yeah.
I feel like when you can let go of something in your mind, it's so much easier for like the abundance to come in.
Oh,
And I'll just say this about abundance since I went there, but I didn't mean to, but I'll just say it.
that's cool.
When you let go of the things that don't serve you,
Mm.
you make space for abundance to come into your
Mhm.
life. So if it's not serving you to like try to do anything else,
Mm.
like about any sort of situation, like let it go.
Mm.
And it's gonna the situation will resolve itself because you've let it go. Like you've taken it out of your hands and like you've made space for abundance. So both on the physical and on the spiritual
Mm.
level, when you let go of things,
Mhm.
you make space for the things you want to come to you.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened this morning because, I've only just found a place because what happened was I went on to, I don't know if anyone's heard of it, it's called flatmates.com. So, of course, it's flatmates.com.au. And I'd
Yeah.
message people that were, putting out for rooms and everything. They never got back to me. So this morning I went, you know what, stuff it. I messaged them all and said, okay, I have to be out by this date. What is going on? I need to know. And as soon as I did that, I reckon it was probably only an hour later, the lady that I'm gonna be living with messaged me and said, "I've got a room."
Right.
And
Sometimes you need to follow up, but it's like
mhm,
follow up and then walk away
yes, yes.
because you did it. That's it.
Mhm,
That's all you can do,
mhm. Yep.
you know?
Yeah, exactly, and that's, the letting go is I took the action and then I let it go,
Right.
and it was so good, and the abundance did come in.
Right. And it's funny because one of the things that people say to me when they declutter is this scenario happens a lot is, "Oh my gosh, I thought I lost this fill
Mm,
in the blank, diamond ring, diamond earrings, stock certificate, whatever it was." Or it's, "Oh my God, I just found $100."
mhm,
Because you let go, you made space for the newer thing that you needed more
mhm.
to come into your life.
Yep.
And I think that's the point. When
Mm,
you let go of the things that, you know, you don't need anymore and
mhm,
you pass your blessing on to somebody else,
mhm,
new blessing can come to you. The things you really want to need, all that stuff that you're not using anymore, you don't want and need it.
mhm.
Now, I'm not talking about things that like you use on a yearly basis. So,
Yeah.
for example, Passover is coming.
Mhm,
I have a set of dishes, pots and pans, whatever, for Passover.
mm.
I'm not getting rid of that.
Yeah.
I use that every year, right?
Mhm,
In my dad's situation, let's say, he comes to us now for the holidays. Can
mm,
he get rid of his stuff? Yes. Either I can absorb it or my brother can absorb
mm,
it or my sister can absorb it. But like,
mm,
does he need to hold on to that stuff anymore? Not so much.
mm.
Do you see? So it's like, yes, this is coming up regularly. every year this is happening. It's
Mm,
holiday decorations or whatever. Every
mm,
year this is happening. I'm not telling you to throw that stuff away because you only use it once a year. That's absolutely not what I'm saying.
mm,
I'm saying there's a space to hold on to those things that you
mhm,
use yearly, but there is no space to hold on to things that you don't use at all for the
mm.
just in case.
Yes. Yes, yeah, and I had something beautiful happen on the weekend when I actually had three people come, a couple and another lady, and the husband actually does what's called resin. So I'm not sure if people are aware of it, but it's amazing. And I had alcohol inks. Now I looked at them and I went, I'm not going to be using them. They're going to be packed away in storage, not going to be used. And I said to myself, do you want them? And so he got them. And like I just thought, that's what it's about. It's
Right. And now you don't have to pay to move them
yeah,
or store
true.
them.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, this is another really big problem is people don't think about the true cost of items.
Mm,
What is it really costing us to own
mhm,
this item?
mhm,
First of all, if it's something that you're holding on for just in case,
yeah,
there's a storage cost. And
mhm,
even if it's not you're paying at a storage unit kind of
mhm,
cost, even if you have the space for it in your
mm,
own house, what would happen if you had a flood?
mm,
That would be like one more thing you would just have to be responsible for cleaning up, right?
mhm,
My dad actually had a flood like 2 weeks ago,
mm,
and the room has to be ripped out to the
mm,
studs. Like
yeah,
everything is ruined.
mhm,
But after my mom passed away, I had cleaned out that room.
mm,
And I think he's like really grateful that there wasn't a lot of stuff that has to come
yep,
out of that room because it was already, I mean, there
mhm,
was some stuff being stored in there, but
mhm,
like, you know,
yep,
that's the end of the story.
mm,
Like it wasn't a lot that he had to take care of in order
mhm,
to get this renovation done,
yeah,
and like that's a big deal. So like
mm,
what is holding on to this item actually costing you? You have to
mm,
consider that when you decide what to keep and what to throw away
mm,
because the cost is actually higher to store it than you
mm,
think.
yeah, that is just a beautiful quote, and I'm actually gonna put that in the description because that is just absolutely brilliant, like, it is,
Thanks.
and I love how you've just said, what is it costing you to store that? Whether for me, yes, I'm gonna have to have a storage unit, thankfully only a small one, which is really good, but,
Right.
it doesn't matter whether it's a storage unit or in your unit, it is costing, and it's costing for me, it was costing mentally as well, and so I had to look at all of that.
Yeah. I mean, when you're holding on to something in a space that you actually live in, it means that something else that you might want to put there doesn't have a
Mhm.
space. Um, you know, and then there are the people who come to me, well, my house is so big and I really have the space. If you keep it, will you even remember that you have it or where it is?
That's such a good point. That's such a good
Like
point.
I go into people's houses and they have like multiples of specific objects. I'm like, why do
Mm,
you have so many? They're like, well, I couldn't find it. And, so I bought another one and then I found the first one.
mm,
Or like, this is really weird. People think I have like an obsession with vegetable peelers. I don't, but this is like the thing that happens in most people's houses. Vegetable peelers stop working. And so they go out and buy another one, but they don't throw out the first one. It's like, it doesn't work. You don't like it. Well, I'm holding on to it just in case I have two people and they're peeling at the same time. Okay, but it doesn't work. Like, why would you hold on to it? It doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, you don't like it, it's rusty, or the blade is
mm,
not sharp, or whatever the reason
mm.
is, just get rid of it. Like, you bought a new one, own it. Like, use it, own it, and let go of the thing that's not serving you because it's really not serving you. And worst case scenario, you have a knife. Like,
Yep.
someone else will peel with a
Yeah. I know. I've
knife.
I've always peeled with a peeler, and then, a friend the other day peeled with a knife, and I went, "What are you doing?" Like, it just felt
My
dangerous
husband,
for me.
it's funny. That's the thing. My husband peels with the peeler and I don't peel anything with a peeler really. Even the carrots, I just scrape them with the knife and like, he's like, why do you do that? And I'm like, because it's faster and it's easier. And like, I don't know, I like the grip on the knife and not, it's just easier for me. But like, for the kids and whatever, we have a peeler. He likes the peeler, my husband. So like, we have a peeler, but like, I don't have 16 peelers. I literally had a client one time who had 7 different peelers. And I was like, why? And she's like, well, this one does it Julian, and this one
Oh
does
no.
it Curly. And I'm like, how often do you do that? She's like, I never use them and they're not sharp and they're not good. I'm like, so let's just let them go. Like, if you
Yes.
were a caterer and,
Mm,
you needed them, then like,
mm,
fine. But you don't do that. You barely
mhm,
cook for you and your husband. Why would you
mm.
need 6 peelers? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Oh, that's oh, well, yep. Yes. Thankfully, that's something that I'm actually good at is if it stops working, okay, you're gone.
Yeah. And you can get rid, and a lot of people don't want to get rid of things because they
Mm,
can't figure out how to ethically get rid of
mm,
it. Take it apart. For
mm,
me, I know people are like, why do you waste your time doing that? And I'm like, it's not a waste of my time. I bought it, I invested in something.
mhm,
I am responsible for disposing of it properly. And then we
mm.
can have a whole nother discussion about
Yeah,
what manufacturer's responsibility is supposed to be. But I spent the money on something and I bought it and I made a conscientious decision to tell a manufacturer that this is something that I wanted.
mm,
And so I need to also take part in disposing of something responsibly.
mhm.
So if that means I take apart a peeler and like recycle the metal and throw out the plastic, then I do that.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought about
Can
that.
I can I do it for everything? No, there are some things that just end up going to the landfill and then
Mm,
we just, we do the best we can.
mm.
But, I try to be a responsible user, and because I'm not busy,
Yeah,
I can be a responsible user, right?
mm,
Like I can be thoughtful about how I use my items.
mm. Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful way to end our beautiful call is that, we do what we can. And as you said, if you can undo something and put it and recycle it, that's great. We do what we can. So thank you, Rebecca, so much for this chat. I could keep going. I honestly could.
We can do it again. We can have another
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would love to. So, yeah, thank you again. And for anyone watching, please don't forget to subscribe, but also check out the description because I've got everywhere that you can find Rebecca. Make sure you go and check her out. And, if you need decluttering, then, go and find Rebecca and go, hey, let's have a chat. Because,
We can declutter from anywhere in the world because I have an online decluttering group. So
how
even in
cool is that?
Australia, I got your back.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. Beautiful. Thank you again. I really do
Thanks for
appreciate
having me.
your time.